Welcome to Gold Mine Live here today. We're in the Student Union. We're going to take a break this week from basketball to talk football. The second National Signing Day coming up on Wednesday. We're joined by our new head football coach, Will Healy. Al Wallace is back with us today. I'm Matt Swarat. Glad to have you along. Also live on Facebook today. Facebook Live. Go to the Niners Facebook page. You want to check out what we're doing here at the Student Union today on Facebook Live. So a lot going on. Coach, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing great. This is pretty cool. We got Wednesday's a big day. Got to wrap up a little bit of hard work and then get to go on a little bit of clinic circuit and make sure we keep reaching out to high school coaches. So it's been really good. It's
been a really busy time for you and your family, your wife Emily, making the transition from Tennessee to Charlotte, North Carolina. You're sitting next to Al, who tomorrow is going to have his fifth child. We don't know boy or girl yet.
You don't.
Five.
We knew a couple of weeks ago.
You could write a book.
He's got a whole starting five now. You had your second son a couple of weeks ago.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. My wife is the real recruit. The best recruiting job I've ever done in 7th grade. But it's a little different going from 1 to 2. You can really ask her because she's been the rock at home. But we're excited to be in Charlotte. There's no doubt.
How has the transition been for you? It's been a crazy time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been nuts. It's been incredible. You know, I would never complain about it because it's been, 2 months of unbelievable blessings. Now the real pressure is I gotta find a house. So my wife's she's at home and she's actually moved back to Chattanooga with our family, with her parents and my parents, and now I'm in charge of picking a house. So I said it's not a 4th and 1 call. It's finding the right house where your wife's not mad at you is the real pressure. So. Still working on it.
So you got the next signing class coming up 2 days from now. There's a lot going on. Tell us about what's been going on the recruiting trail for you guys last really month and a half since the last signing period. Yeah,
for us, we signed 18 guys, in the early signing period. So it's been where do we need help? What does our roster look like? You're trying to get to know the guys that are on your current roster. Some guys that you can hone in on, 6, 7 guys in this recruiting signees on Wednesday that you feel like could meet some needs or be immediate help and change your roster a little bit. So. But for more than that, it's been us making sure that Charlotte coaches understand we're going to recruit Charlotte. So relationships have been huge. We've got 10 guys that will have 8 schools apiece in 6 counties around here, and we're going to attack what's going on at home first. And our staff's done a great job making sure that people know that we'll be consistent. We're developing really good relationships, and the high school coaches around the area have been extremely receptive.
Coach, what is that game plan like for recruiting? Do you go out there, you try to retool the current roster and find guys that fit your system the way you want this team to look in 2019?
Yeah, it's kind of best available right now, because you don't know what your roster really looks like. And I say all the time that guys who may have been great players for the last staff may not fit as much as, where we want them, and guys who didn't produce as much for the last staff have new life. So you don't really know, I would say, until after you finish spring practice what your roster looks like. You can go back and watch all the game film you want, but I don't know if it gives you a great indication. You can watch them in the weight room and see them move a little bit, but you're trying to take the best available players. And we really had 7 signees that we had recruited and knew a lot about and said these we think are the best 7 guys that could come in and make an immediate impact, kind of can't miss prospects.
Yeah, with that fresh start, does it give more incentive to the guys in that locker room, knowing it's just it's a blank slate? They get to go in there and compete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that competition is really good for everybody, and that should be a staple of this program. I think as you build this thing, you hope you get some really competitive depth, and so the guys who have proved themselves before have to prove themselves again. And, it's no different than our staff. We got to prove ourselves. And so the guys who, felt like they'd kind of dug themselves a hole with the last one are now they have new life. So it should make everybody around us better. The best ones will rise to the top, and we'll figure out where we need to plug some holes in the meantime.
You mentioned, getting a fit with the guys that are here with the style you want to play. We're also going to meet your offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator Alex Atkins, defensive coordinator Marcus West will be joining us on the show today as well. Talk about that style a little bit. You mentioned during your introductory press conference the way you wanted to play, but if folks didn't hear about that and joining us for the first time today, what kind of style of football do you want to play?
Well, if I can say one thing I've done right, and I'll take the credit for this all day long, is Mike's allowed me to hire right. And I feel great about the 8 guys that the coaches that we've been able to hire. I think they're the best I've ever been around, but they're great people and great friends as well. So I know we'll be well coached and fundamentally sound, and I believe in our schemes on both sides of the ball. Alex Atkins, our offensive line coach and offensive coordinator, we're a spread option, with some West Coast principles in the pass game. We want to create balance from a yardage perspective, but we're not going to be a team that's going to throw it 65, 70 times a game. I don't think that helps your defense. We're going to have a quarterback that we feel like can help us in the run game and make you defend the entire field, an accurate passer who can beat you with his arm, and then some wideouts on the outside that become a big part of the run game and also have to be dynamic enough to win in one-on-one situations. Defensively, we're a 4-2-5 defense. We expect to get pressure with our front four, and we'll be extremely fundamentally sound. We're going to be in position. Our guys are going to know where to go, and we'll play extremely hard. So, and then obviously Max Thurman, our special teams coordinator, I think that's a huge part of the game. Obviously, we feel great about Cruz coming back and what he brings to the special teams game. But all of our guys will be free game on special teams, and we'll make sure and put the best 11 out there.
Coach West is going to be coaching up that defense, and I know this unit had a lot of success last year. I was there for your opening press conference. You talked about the outside rushers that you've coached and how they were going to get after it. Standing next to Alex Highsmith, I got a little excited. I'm a pass rusher myself. Talk about how important it is with that foundation you have.
Can you still play?
I'm not eligible.
You look like you could suit it up.
Mentally, yes. Okay. Physically, probably
I understand. At least you can play at some point in time. I've never been able to play.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, that's something we've made a living on for a long time. And Marcus and I have been together for 10 years. He was at the University of Minnesota last year and has always developed pass rushers. I think that's where it starts for us on defense. If we're good up front with the front four, we'll be really good on defense. And, Marcus has done a great job. I think the great part about this staff is there's a really good mixture of the ability to recruit, but also the ability to develop. And that's what we're going to be about, and I know that we'll rush the passer extremely well for a long time here.
Well, Coach, coming up on Wednesday, National Signing Day, but of course the nightly meet and greet with the fans going to be at Heist Brewery. It's sold out for folks that maybe are interested right now. It's sold out already. You want to get involved next year, got to get on the board a little bit quicker. But hey, Coach, it's going to be a lot of fun.
We're going to have it at the Spectrum Center next year.
Bigger place next year, right?
Just fill that place up.
Talk about getting a chance to get out there and meet some of the Niner fans.
Yeah, more than anything for me, it's exciting to be able to introduce the guys on staff. Again, I feel like that's why we'll be successful. And so I know our staff will do a great job of developing relationships in this community. I think it'll be another chance for us to talk about what our vision is and get a chance to meet some people who have been some diehard fans for a long time here and will be along for the ride. So I'm really excited about Wednesday. I think it'll be a great event, and I know that, like everybody here, we're constantly trying to find ways to make it better and grow it. But for this thing to be sold out already is a big deal, and excited to meet these people.
Well, you locked some guys in with that December signing class. We'll take a time out right now to go down some of the players that you have already got signed with the Niners. Some are in school already here. We'll talk about that as we continue with more from Gold Mine Live today at the Student Union. It's from Learfield IMG College. And welcome back to Goldmine Live here in the Student Union with Al Wallace this week and head coach Will Healy talking Niner football. We'll step down for a second to talk to some of the guys that are here. We've got a big crowd here today. In fact, it's the biggest one I think, Al, we've ever had for a football show so far here at the Student Union. And I got an opportunity now for some folks that are here. If you got a question for Coach, you can jot it down. There's a table up here inside the barrier, but there's a table. Come on up. There's some paper. You want to ask Coach a question, you might get that answered during the show this week. If not, definitely during the next time we have a football show. But the second National Signing Day is coming up this Wednesday, and we'll have a press conference in the middle of the afternoon on Wednesday to talk about the guys that will sign on this next class. But really a handful of guys already, Coach, are inked and ready to go for 2019, and got a little list here. And we can start at the top. Peter Agabi, who's a linebacker from North Miami Beach. Talk about him a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll start with this. I feel like I cheated because all of these guys, the last staff, did an unbelievable job of getting commitments from, and they're great kids, and I feel like a lot of them have met some needs for our football program. So, you know, they're a lot like the guys you have on the roster right now, and you're getting to know them, and you're, finding out what makes them tick. So the 7 that we'll sign on Wednesday, we're obviously a lot more familiar with than the ones that we had ink in December. So, to me, just an overview, I think we did a really good job of, and the last staff is included in this, there's no doubt, but of being able to recruit locally. I think especially from the defensive back position, we met some needs. There's some guys with some really good speed, good size. I mean, you look at Jalen and Prince, both guys that are from around here. Both guys played in the Shrine Bowl. They're big physical linebackers. Jalen's already and Prince are both already here, and you've seen them do really good things in the weight room, so big to get them. Obviously you talk about the 2 transfers in Faison Walden and Osborne that I think that will be a trend here, and we're not going to make a living on it, but I think the fun part about it is you're going to have guys from the state of North Carolina, Charlotte in particular, that are going to want to come back home. And our job is to make sure we make this place cool and that guys want to come back and do something really special and be the first in their hometown to do it. Signed a couple offensive and defensive linemen I think have really good size, good potential. Obviously they are developmental type of guys, and I mentioned that earlier. I think our staff, especially with what happens in the weight room, you can take a guy that may be a little light that you feel like you got to put 20 or 30 pounds on that may need to work on some hip flexibility and some things like that, because I think Chris Laskowski, our strength coach, is the best in the business. So, overall, I thought we met some needs. I thought we signed great kids and kids that wanted to be here. I mean, you think about those guys. They were committed and signed even through a staff transition. And so, they want to be here bad, and they'll make this place great.
In that list, there's 10 that are from North Carolina, 1 from South Carolina. Talking about that, keeping guys home, keeping them close. That's fantastic. And you mentioned getting guys in the weight room and letting them grow and develop into players. The guy sitting next to you went to the University of Maryland as a wide receiver. Can you believe that? Before becoming a defensive end?
Just athlete. I mean, that's what I think about whenever I look at you. You look like you could still strap it up. So props to you.
Yeah, we see the North Carolina guys on there. That's extremely important. So much talent around here. I moved here in 2002, and it's just a hotbed for sports around here. Talk about how important it is. We see a couple guys in there from Florida to tap into some of those resources also.
Well, as I look at it, and you talk primary recruiting areas, like I talked about, 10 coaches, 8 schools apiece, and 6 surrounding counties, that's everybody's primary recruiting area. So for 52 weeks a year, you will talk to somebody on that staff and make sure they understand that we want to keep those guys who can play here, who meet our standard as far as character and academics. We want to make it really hard on them to leave, regardless of where they're going. I think, as we look at other states that will recruit, you got Virginia, you got South Carolina, you got Tennessee, you got Florida, Georgia, Alabama, a little bit of Mississippi. So we will recruit 7 or 8 states around here. But I think what I've found is as you are building something, you have to make sure that you can get guys on campus to win tight battles. I don't like beating air in recruiting. I want to make sure that we have a chance to go beat some lower level ACC, SEC type schools, and that we're involved in those battles. And I think to be able to do that, you have to get a guy on campus where he buys into your vision, sees how you're going to be able to use him, and then has got a little something special about him where he wants to do something for the first time.
Yeah, you talk about the campus. Let us know a little bit about how you feel about the facilities and the resources that are here at Charlotte.
I feel like every day I walk into my office, I just hope Mike Hill's not sitting there waiting saying, I'm just kidding. This place is unbelievable. The campus, this place right here in general. I mean, we take people on recruiting visits, even local guys, and they say, wow, I had no idea it was like this. I've told everybody my favorite thing to do is when I hire a new coach, whether it's 11:30 at night or whatever time it is, I can't wait to meet them here and show them around and see their first reaction. But this place is special, and obviously the vision of the university matches the vision of our athletic department, and we want people to know about this place. We want to be relevant. We want to make sure that people understand how special this place can be, and so I'm excited about that journey, and I believe this place has the potential to fulfill all of those aspirations.
And you talked about when Mike first called, you said, hey, I'll walk to Charlotte to get this interview. So when you're out selling the program, trying to get people on campus, a lot of folks that have been here in the past don't realize when they come back how much it has changed.
Yeah.
I know you're new here, but this constant growth. You got the new wellness facility going up just outside the student union. There's so much going on, and it just continues to grow more and more.
Yeah, that's what's fun about it, is that we are all learning as a university, as an athletic department, what it's going to take to be the best of the best in everything we do. And I think as our student body continues to, to buy into this place being their place and Charlotte athletics, there may be somebody who gets more people in the stands, or there may be somebody who has more televised games, but this is your school. I talk to our players about it all the time. Like we just talked about, I walked by somebody with an NC State shirt on. No, we're going to put on Charlotte gear when we're on this campus. And this place is going to be relevant enough where people around here want to take pride in where they go to school and who they cheer for, and our fan base will feel the same way. So it's an awesome opportunity. There's a lot of firsts that will happen, and we've got the resources to be able to do it.
You also talked about making this Charlotte's team, in that people are going to get to know your players. You're going to be out in the community, out doing service to where they're going to want to become invested in the program as well.
Yeah, there's always a Clemson game on TV. And to me, what's going to make our place different is accessibility, and I think people ask me all the time, how do you get students to come to games? Well, when our player's sitting in the classroom and he's got two students sit right next to him, he needs to turn and introduce himself and make sure that student understands that they are a student first. And then that student all of a sudden says, well, I want to go pull for Cam because I know him and he's in my sociology class, and all of a sudden you get two each in every class you go into. You get 8 students a day that want to buy into cheering for this football team, and next thing you know, you got a home field advantage that's second to none. So it's the same way in the community. When somebody comes to watch a practice, when our guys are out and they're wearing a Charlotte football shirt on, a jacket or whatever it may be, they need to represent this program the right way, where people want to pull for them. Our staff needs to do a great job of getting involved in downtown Charlotte and get people over here and just come see it first, then come have a great experience, because we're going to put a great product on the field, and then all of a sudden you get this thing snowballing a little bit. People don't want to go anywhere else to watch a game.
Coach, you've had an opportunity to go down this roster, meet a lot of these guys, not all these guys one-on-one. Talk about the character. We know about the football players, but talk about the type of character guys you have in this program.
I think it's off the charts. And I give Brad and his staff so much credit for what type of human beings we have in this program. I think like every coach in the country, you're always looking to find ways to get better, but we have an incredible foundation of great character, great players, and so we're just looking to build onto that and make sure that these guys continue to do what they've done to build the initial foundation.
With this program being so young, too, it's still at that building block spot. We got Larry Ogunjobi in the NFL, what he's doing right now with the Cleveland Browns. Before we take our next break and bring in some of the assistant coaches, tell us about, this is a great story about Keontae Davis when you were at Chattanooga, and it's fantastic how he was a guy who signed for books, and tomorrow he'll be in a Super Bowl parade with the Patriots.
Yeah, really cool. And you know, obviously Marcus is the one that deserves the credit for that. I was just smart enough to see a 6'4" guy whose hands basically touched his feet when he was walking, and saying, I think that guy can do something. Marcus developed him. We signed him for books. We signed him at the last minute, finally found a way to be able to fit him in the numbers. He ends up being a 3-time All-American, and more than that, the guy could run for president tomorrow and you'd vote for him. He comes in and he's got this shell about him. You know, he's really quiet. He's not real confident in himself. And then year 3 in the thing, he's running the skit show and he's everybody's favorite player. You know, so to me, that's the coolest part about it. Keontae is a great player. He actually was a projected 3rd, 4th round pick, and he went to the combine and had something with his spine, and everybody got scared of it. So the Patriots, shocker, found a way to be able to put him in their system to where he would finally be cleared, and now he's, you know, just won a Super Bowl ring. So they were able to see his potential. But, I mean, he's an unbelievable kid. I mean, he deserves everything, and he's worked really hard for everything he's gotten. But, you know, he's one of the favorites that we've ever had. He was actually coming here to coach. I'm sorry, he was at Austin Peay with us. And he gets a phone call from the New England Patriots. And they said, we're bringing you up tomorrow. We're going to put you on the roster. So we were going to hire him as an assistant defensive line coach. And I think he picked the right move.
Yeah, that's a great story. It'll be fun to find out years from now, or maybe just a year from now, who that next guy is from here that gets a story like that.
Well, Nate Davis has obviously made a name for himself, and I know we'll have tons of GMs and every NFL organization here to see him. He did a great job in the Senior Bowl, and I've heard anywhere from 2nd to 4th round for him. So people will be here to see it, and we expect that to happen for a long time.
Great things are happening here, and all starts again with the spring game coming up April 13th as we kick off the next season of 49ers football. We'll talk more about that coming up later on with Coach Healy. Going to take a break right now. Got a couple of assistant coaches going to bring in. Marcus West, who's the assistant head coach, co-defensive coordinator, defensive line coach, is up next. We'll talk to Marcus after this break. You're listening to Gold Mine Live from Learfield IMG College. And welcome back to Goldmine Live from Learfield IMG College here at the Student Union on campus today for his football show with new head coach Will Healy, joined by a couple of our assistant coaches next couple of segments. First up is assistant head coach, co-defensive coordinator, and defensive line coach Marcus West. Marcus, welcome to Charlotte. Hope you're doing well.
Oh, man, thank you. Thank you. What a beautiful place. This place has been unbelievable. This has been a dream of Will. So I've listened to him talk about this dream for probably 3 years now. And it's everything he said that it could be. Excited to be here. I tell you what, not only am I able to live the dream behind somebody I truly care about, but I'm able to do it with people that I love. Some of my best friends and some of the best ball coaches I've ever known. So it's beautiful to be here.
Yeah, you guys have been together for a while. You were with them in Chattanooga, Coach Healy. You were with them at Austin Peay when he got his first head coaching job. And now, after a year at Minnesota, you come back and join the Charlotte program. What's that been like, those years, learning together, working together, and now getting to be at a place like Charlotte together?
I tell you what, I just told somebody not long ago. How about this? Me and Will were actually together as like GAs at Chattanooga. It was 4 of us in like a closet. It was 4 of us like a closet. And the stories that happened from that place, man, a lot of them stay in that closet, okay? But that place was, that's where we started and learned a lot of football, learned a lot about each other, grew to love each other, grew to grind in the process, and to watch him, honestly, to step back as a friend, first of all, and watch him grow and become what he has been as a head coach is amazing. His family's been unbelievable to me. So it's where I am right now. I wouldn't rather do it for any other person. So.
You inherit a defense that was one of the top defenses in Conference USA last season. So not only are you recruiting new players, you're getting to know the guys that are still here. And what have you liked so far? I know spring practice hasn't started yet, and until they get out there and do it in front of you, it's different than watching on tape. But what have you seen when you've seen the tape of this Niner defense and what you like?
I tell you what, this is a cool job. Like this is a job where you look on the board, and it's not like a depleted roster by any means. You walk into this place at the right point, right time. You got two all-conference defensive ends, okay? So I was going to coach defensive line no matter what, okay? I'm coaching those guys.
That's right.
So you get a chance to walk into that. We've got depth. I've watched a little bit of film on them. I'm looking forward more to anything than being around them. I was actually here a little over 3 weeks ago, and I get here and Will sends me on the road. It's like, I want to know my players. Like, no, you get on the road and go recruit, okay? But this is a place where you want to be. This is not an Austin Peay in a sense. This is not a Chattanooga. It's just looking for a little energy to just take off and just a little fuel and add a little gas to it, tweak a few things, and let's go.
What do you see as the strengths? What do you build on with this group? You talked about Harris and Highsmith out on the outside, great linebackers, the secondary. What have you done in your evaluation that you've seen that you can build on that great performance we saw last season?
This group fits a lot of what we do, okay? We don't have to have the 265, 275-pound defensive ends. We don't.
So I'm out.
You look like you're in. You're looking like you're all in, baby. We don't have to have those guys. We got guys that can run. We want guys that can run. So on the outside, I think we're just right now. How about this? This is something I learned last week. You know what the sack record is here at Charlotte?
What is it?
6. All right, we will break that. Okay, all right, we will break sack records here, along with other things to happen. So we take guys that they don't have to be that big, that can run, put them on the edge, that can bend, and we rush the passer with them. So that's where you start. Defensive ends will be some of the best players you'll ever see play the game here. Then inside, we've got a little bit of depth there, got a little work to do there. At linebacker, we got smart players. We've got depth at that position, which is cool. So we can find some people to get it done. And then the secondary, we look long, and that's what we want to be. So I mean, you're walking to a great place to be in this seat.
When you look at yourself as a coach and how you've learned coming up, you're a very good player at University of Memphis, went on to play in the NFL with the Colts, and other places as well. What have you taken in each step to become the coach that you are? Some things you've learned from other people. You mentioned working with Coach Healy for a long time, but the different places you have been to become the coach you are now.
First thing I learned is that I wasn't a really good player, okay, because I play with really good ones. And I learned that that I was a little above average player, but in order to be on the field with them, I knew how I had to work. I'll tell you this, from Memphis and the people that I coached, the men that coached me at Memphis, I think of Clay Helton was my recruiting coach. That man taught me how to recruit. I remember the day that he sat in my mom's house and how he told my mom that he was going to take her son and return him a man. Chris Rump, who's the defensive coordinator at Tennessee, taught me I remember how to be relationship building coach from him. Tommy West was everything to me as a head coach. You go to the NFL, John Tierlink is who I learned defensive line play from, who developed Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis, but most importantly, John Randall, that guy. Then you go on and you play, and I mean, the guys that give me an opportunity. We work for Russ Huseman. You want to talk about like what we're going to do at defense? We're going to be sound, if nothing else, on defense, because I stood behind and I worked for that guy. We will be sound. And then to work for Will, you learn energy. You learn passion about whatever you do. Then you want to take energy, how about go work for PJ Fleck? How about that dude? You want to talk about energy. So, I mean, I take a little bit from everybody.
Yeah, I just talk about the chemistry. We talked about the chemistry in that coaching room, and you guys have been together so long. That locker room, how do you bring in a new staff with new defensive sets, new terminology, all that stuff, and still keep that chemistry going in that locker room?
It starts with relationships, man. It starts with building relationships outside the locker room. You know, as anything has been a player, you got to trust me. You got to trust me. You got to know, lay your head on a pillow at night, know that my coach loves me more than anything. And then somebody once said that they'll never care to listen until they first know you care. You got me? So it's got to start there. That's what I talked about Will today. I was like, I want to instill a lot within them, but more importantly, I can't wait to be around them. I want to love them. I want to get to know them, and then they'll do anything for you. And then we'll instill. After that, we'll start with football 1-on-1 next week, and they'll get football. I promise you in due time. But they're going to understand the pillars of how we play. Our defense will be in 4 pillars. One, we're going to be sound. I tell you that. You heard Will say that. We'll be sound. We'll defend the run with numbers in what we do. Secondly, you will not outrun us. We'll hang our hat on one thing in this defense. We will run in this defense. You will not outrun us. Mark my word in that. Third, we're going to rush the passer. We're going to rush the passer up front with 4. That's why I want to coach those guys, and they happen to be pretty good too. and lastly, Eddie Hicks, our corners and nickels coach, that dude says all the time, we'll be takers. I've been around him for 2 years, and all he talks about in the secondary is being takers. We don't go up and we don't allow things to happen. We take it. When the ball's in the air, we take it. We will be aggressive there. So you hang your hat on those 4 things and steal those within those guys, and you got something, man.
Well, Coach, we got a question from the crowd, and I think a lot of the question was just answered a moment ago in your last answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. It says, what do you hope to emphasize on the defensive end of the field this year? And you talked about just being that aggressive in speed and rushing the passer. Anything else you want to add?
That's it, man. I just said it. Those are 4 pillars in the defensive end of the field. One, we will run. We're going to be sound. I want them to understand the defense, understand the weaknesses, the stresses of our defense. It's more, just to me, just as important as it is to understand what you're doing, it's important to understand the stresses of what you're doing, because every defense has stresses. It's all about who has the pen last. So if you understand the stresses and where they will attack us and what we do, then you have a chance. And that comes in the classroom. I want to be a great teacher, and I work with people that are great teachers. Brandon Cooper is an unbelievable teacher and developer. Eddie Hicks, unbelievable teacher and developer. Max Thurman, unbelievable wisdom and knowledge. So we've got it, man.
Sounds great, Coach. Thanks so much for joining us here today.
I appreciate it.
Welcome to Charlotte. Looking forward to getting started with the spring practice coming up really soon. We're going to take a break on the show right now. Don't forget, we have some paper up here if you want to ask a question to any of the coaches or Coach Healy. He'll be back a little bit later in the show today. Just come on up, jot down the question. We will get that answered for you. Coming up next, Alex Atkins, who's the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, joined the program. And I want to thank Marcus West again who is the assistant head coach, co-defensive coordinator this year for the Niners football team. Back with more of Gold Mine Live, Niner football from Learfield IMG College. Welcome back to Gold Mine Live here in the Student Union. It's brought to us from Learfield IMG College. Matt Swaride with you, joined now by Alex Atkins, who's the offensive coordinator for the Niners, offensive line coach as well. Al Wallace stays with us up on the podium here. And, Coach, good to see you. How you doing?
Oh, man, loving to be in here. I tell you what, the weather's cleared up a little bit, and I'm just enjoying myself.
Well, you come from Tulane most recently, last 3 years, to join this Niner program, and you guys had a lot of success down there building that program back up. 7 wins this year, won a bowl game, and then after you won that bowl game, you take the job and come up here. So it's been a quick transition for you as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, usually that's how those transitions kind of go. You know, once you kind of take a new job, you got to get up there quick and try to get to work as quickly as you can, especially with the early silent period. And then moving to the second one, you got to kind of get to work on recruiting as fast as you possibly can. I
know you guys have been busy doing that. You got the National Signing Day, second one coming up on this coming Wednesday. But also when you get here, you got to get to know the guys you do have and what you might need going forward. Talk about a little bit some of the guys that are returning and what you have and what you like.
Well, what I like, the first time I walked in the building, I met Cam Clark, who's a leader, and they have a standard board on the wall from the previous regime, and it's considered a standard for the program. They call it the gold standard. And I met him as soon as I came in the building, and I met his parents. They came up and visited with me, and he just kind of gave me a rundown of the character of the team, what kind of guys we had, and that just fired me up more than anything, because sometimes character gets missing with the evaluation process. And I think that's probably the most important thing. If you got a guy like Cam who's leading the way, setting that example with character, usually everything else kind of falls into place. Of course, there's a threshold of ability you got to have, but character can kind of override for a lot, not only in football, just in everything you do.
Coach, you talked about Cam. You have Nate Davis. He's going to be an NFL football player.
Yep.
There's another guy that kind of set that gold standard on that offensive line. Talk about that unit in particular and how important they're going to be with Benny LeMay behind them and what he was able to do last year.
Awesome. Well, even going back to Nate, a lot of people don't know my relationship with the first O-line coach here, Phil Ratliff, who got a lot of those guys here. I GA'd for him in Marshall. And when he took this job, I came up and visited him for a week, and I knew what kind of mentality he was going to kind of put into this program. So I knew the guys that were like Cam and Nate that were from that regime and that mindset, I knew what kind of kids they were going to be. But as far as Benny, anytime you get to a situation where you got a running back that's returning, that's had the production that he has, you always fired up. Tough runner, hard to tackle, O-line finishing block. So what we want to do is kind of build on that success and kind of make it where they got to cover the whole field and give him a little bit more opportunity. Hopefully he can have a wonderful year.
Yeah, and the running game, absolutely solid. A bunch of young, talented wide receivers on the outside led by Victor Tucker.
Yep. Well, I'm excited to see what those guys can do. You know, this is my favorite time of the year. You know, I love recruiting, but once your recruiting is over, you get to be around the guys that's in that office, in that building every day. So I can't wait to get out there, get around them as much as I possibly can, and try to learn not only about, you know, their ability. Of course, I watched a lot of film from last year, but to see how they even got better, because sometimes the film doesn't tell the tape, because guys get better from year 2 to 3 to 3 to 4. Sometimes you don't even recognize them. So I'm excited, and what I loved about all those guys, especially receivers, of course, they all came and met with me because, you know, anytime you hire a line coach, they want to know if they're going to get the ball. You know, and I said, well, I look at the receiver position. I want y'all to be the leaders of my team. You know, I want you to make it undeniable, where if I'm not getting the ball to you, I'm an idiot. You know, because y'all are setting the tone mentality. Whenever the receiver room is setting the mentality of your team, you're going to be pretty good, because those guys are involved not only in the run game and the pass game, and they're known as guys that be kind of selfish. But if they're showing they're not, then that can kind of set the whole mode of our whole team.
One of the things we noticed last year, not just running the football at Benny LeMay, but how good of a blocker he is, and also a pass catcher coming out of the backfield.
Correct. Well, if you watch the NFL games, you know, they're not doing it by committee. You know, you got to be in it, you got to be able to protect, you got to be able to catch, and you got to be able to run. And I think for Benny to show those things actually help his stock. So the more he gets better at that, I think that helps him in the long run. But that's the kind of kid he is. You know, and that goes back to what we talked about originally, is the character. He is like that all the time, whether it's be in the locker room, in the weight room. He's going to do everything that's surrounding him that he puts his hands into or he's involved in is going to be the greatest he can do it. And when you have kids like that, you get those complete players that don't just focus on one area but get better in all areas.
With spring ball starting up soon, I think it's going to be fun to watch the competition in the quarterback spot. And there may be more guys coming into the mix once you get here back in July and August. But right now, what you've got, there's going to be a lot of competition.
Yeah, and usually that's the best way to have it, because everybody knows they have to show their ability to be their best, but not only be their best, but be consistently their best. You know, where they got to show up every day to work, you can't just have flashes. You got to be able to consistently show me that you can run and control this offense. You know, and that starts before we even touch a football. I'm looking at it right now. I'm asking those guys, who are they leaning on, or who outside of the program, who comes in the cafeteria, who's leading them in the weight room, who's leading them in the dorm. That position too much, I mean, it has to be that kind of guy.
And Coach Healy talked about coming into this whole process as a blank slate. Is that the mentality you're taking into spring ball?
Well, it has to be, you know, because we have to give everybody an opportunity to show who they are. And once they show who they are, then I'm going to believe them. Because, you know, like I said, anybody can show improvement. They can get a lot better. Some guys go the other way. They go backwards when they get a little bit of change. So I'm excited because there is a clean slate. You know, it's the best time for all those kids who felt like they needed to show someone, they wasn't able to show anything. I can't wait to see how excited they are to show what they can do, who they are, and how they go about their business.
Coach, as always, I want to welcome you to Charlotte.
Awesome.
And have a great spring practice starting up really soon.
And fired up.
Got the meet and greet with the fans coming up on Wednesday. Hope it's a great class that you guys get to sign on Wednesday. And best of luck going forward.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Take a time out on the show. Bring Coach Healy back up here. I want to thank Alex Atkins for joining us today. Niners' new offensive coordinator, offensive line coach. We'll continue with more of Gold Mine Live from Learfield IMG College in a moment. Welcome back to Gold Mine Live here at the Student Union. It's a football show this week, the second National Signing Day this season coming up this Wednesday. And there'll be a press conference about 1:30 in the afternoon. Coach will announce the guys that are going to sign this period. And then that night there's going to be a meet and greet. It's already sold out, but looking forward to getting together with the fans and talking about all the new guys that have signed with the Niners. Also want to mention that coming up tomorrow afternoon, for all the folks that are listening and the folks that are in the Student Union right now, head basketball coach Ron Sanchez will be making sandwiches at Subway here on campus of the Cone Center tomorrow. That's going to be from 12 noon until 1 o'clock. So noon to 1, Coach's First Cancer promo. Coach Sanchez making sandwiches at the Subway in the Cone Center tomorrow. So go check that out and see.
He's
Coach.
A lot more talented than I am. Ron is. I would actually eat a sandwich that he made. I'd probably mess mine up. So good thing he's doing it, not me.
Got a couple of questions here, Coach, that some of the fans had written down. And one you had talked a little bit about before, but we'll mention again since they may not have heard it. How much interaction you've had with the current roster since you've arrived here on campus?
You know, we've had 2 big team meetings with everybody involved, so that's been fun. Being able to address them before Christmas break I thought was awesome, and just here's what you should expect when you get back, and I'm excited to have all of you and hopefully ease a little bit of the anxiety for those guys. I thought was really good. We had one when they got back, and now things have started to, you're starting to implement your culture a little bit. Obviously, the most important piece of this whole thing was what happens in the weight room, because Chris Laskowski and his staff are the ones who see him pretty much every day. And so what I feel great about is that how they, as the staff was on the road, and today is the first day back in the office, what type of message that they were getting from Chris Laskowski. And so a little bit, not a ton. I've been able to walk in and out of workouts, but not near as much as I would like. Next week we'll start our winter conditioning series, and all the staff will be out there and have a chance to put them in some adverse situations and see how they respond and coach them up and be around them. And so I'm looking forward to that. Coaching football is the perfect thing for a guy with ADD like me, and it always changes. So now you're moving on from the on-the-road recruiting part. Recruiting never stops, but now you're on to where you get a chance to really dig in on some of these relationships and get to know these guys.
I'm going to double up our second question here with something that we do each show. It's sponsored by Bojangles, and during the season, it's the Bow Time Challenge. Used to be Kevin Donnelly would challenge a student to an eating contest. We had to put the end of that. Kevin almost choked one day. So.
Yeah.
And he started losing, too.
Yeah.
He started losing with the sweet
He doesn't like to lose,
challenge.
huh?
He doesn't like to lose. So it's always something that's the biggest challenge coming up the next game. Since it's not a next game right now, this next question kind of talks about a challenge. What your biggest challenge will be in advancing the program?
That's a great question. I would say a big part of it is making sure that people have a chance to get on this campus and understand how special this place can be. I think just getting the name out is a big deal. And whether that's for recruits, whether that's for high school coaches, or whether that's for people in the city of Charlotte, we have so much to sell. And anybody who ever comes on this campus, they all say the exact same thing, and that they're blown away. And so I think the biggest challenge, which I'm very confident that we will be able to attack and help with, is that we just got to make sure that we make this place, and I use the word cool loosely, but it's got to be cool for recruits, it's got to be cool for high school coaches, and it's got to be cool to come support. And I fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, I've been in the situation before, and I think the staff will do a great job. I think our guys are continuing to buy into how important they are in this process, and obviously for me, it's a big part of my job as well.
Coach, you talked a little bit about the winter conditioning. How important is that to kind of set your foundation on the expectations of what a Charlotte 49er is under your program?
I think it's really important, as much from just getting to know the guys and how they respond to adversity. I also think that right now some of the movement things, and it's typical when you go from one strength coach to the other. Obviously, there are things that are really important to Chris that they may not have done the last time, and vice versa. So it's a different mentality. It's a different priority list for what we're doing in the weight room. So these kids are just learning these movements and what we want them to do. So obviously the mat drill will be important because it's the first chance that I'll really get a chance to coach them. I see them in the weight room. I try to coach them in the weight room, but this is going to be, 45-minute session where we get to get after it a little bit, and we'll see how they respond. Teach them things about body language. Teach them things about finishing drills. Show them what our expectation is. Correct the things that need to be corrected, and hopefully get better from number 1 to number 10.
Now, Coach, got to take our last break of the show. We'll come back and touch on the spring game, the schedule a little bit, and then wrap it up as we have our first football show with head coach Will Healy. We'll continue with more from Gold Mine Live on the campus of the Student Union from Learfield IMG College. Go back to Gold Mine Live. We got about 3 minutes left of the show here with head coach Will Healy talking Niners football, and got the spring game coming up April the 13th. That's going to be at 4 o'clock. It's going to be announced later today. 4 o'clock. It'll be played at Richardson Stadium on the 13th of April. That's a Saturday, and spring practice, coach, begins March the 12th. So it's right around the corner. We're in February now. Before you know it, you guys will be out there with the pads on and getting after it.
Hard to believe, and I'm excited about that as much as anything, because I think, like we talked about earlier, the character and the type of young men we have in this program, I think, is second to none, and they've worked really hard. They're eager. They want to win. They're doing everything that they need to do to give themselves a chance, and now you get to go to the next step, and you start getting a chance to talk a little ball and schemes, and you can see their eyes light up a little bit. So we're progressing. I think they see some light at the end of the tunnel. They're like me, and they want it. When it keeps changing, I think it helps, and so we'll look forward to getting in pads.
What can we expect to see maybe in the spring game? Some coaches do it differently, and some play a regular game. What are you thinking about doing, or has that been decided yet for the spring game?
No, I mean, I think the way I've done it in the past, I mean, we'll break up into 2 teams. I don't know how you'll break the roster up. I don't know if you would have a draft or something like that. We'll kind of see what some ideas may be like for that. But what you hope happens is your first team offense is playing your first team defense and so on, and second team versus second team. And you get a chance to put some guys into some game-like situations. You try to treat it as much like the first game as possible to see how they react, but also to prepare them for, hey, this is what I expect when we're in the locker room pregame. Here's how I address you. Here's how, so you get a chance to put a little bit of the game day simulation in there, and put them in front of some fans, and and see who rises to the top.
Only got about a minute left in the show, Coach, but looking at the 2019 schedule, it's pretty exciting for fans. You got a trip to Appalachian State. You got a trip to Clemson. I know it's exciting for them. It's daunting maybe a little bit for you with the challenges, but I know you guys are going to be up for it. And, you know, this team really competed hard at Tennessee last year. It's going to be fun to watch you guys go up against not just the Conference USA schools, but those schools as well.
Yeah, I think opening it up at home is a big deal. And that home opener versus Gardner-Webb will be a lot of fun. Look forward to having a chance to pack this place out for that. You go, you know, in an in-state school who's got an unbelievable tradition in App on the road, be a great environment. UMass back at home at Clemson. That's a really good non-conference schedule. You know, obviously you talk about the Clemson, the App, the UMass games, the Gardner-Webb games. I think any chance you get to put your guys in, you know, obviously playing in front of all those people in Death Valley will be a lot of fun. You hope that you have some guys that have opportunities to play in the National Football League like Nate does this year. And the first film they're going to put on is how did you do against Clemson? And so we'll try to make sure we have at least one of those a year, and also making sure that we schedule some really good in-state competition as well, which obviously everybody knows what App has been. So excited about those.
Coach, thanks so much. Really enjoyed the show today, and good luck with spring practice. We'll talk to you really soon.
Looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
That's it, Coach Will Healy joining us on Goldmine Live today. We'll turn it back to basketball next week. Don't forget, tomorrow at the Cone Center at 12 noon, Coach Sanchez is making sandwiches at Subway. Al Wallace, best of luck to you and your family tomorrow.
Thank you. Appreciate
with,
it.
Number 5 tomorrow. This time tomorrow, you'll be a dad again.
I'll be a dad again.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
For all of us here at Goldmine Live, Matt Swarad, Matt President back in the studio. So long, everybody.